Step number 1, put this video in full screen, and that's it. Don't skip around, don't do any of that shit, because I'm doing this video with no cuts, no takes, none of that editing stuff. This is an unedited raw video. So it will train your mind just to focus on this video, and when you feel like your stimulated brain is like making you distracted, making you go out and focus, just like squint your eyes and try to focus on this video. I've had my bad days, man. Like I remember myself being introduced to porn like 1 year ago, 2 years ago. I was masturbating from a long time. That's a story for another day. I was introduced to porn. I just wanted something to fap to. So I've been hearing about porn from my friends and stuff. So I just googled it. First it was too much stimulation, but then as time went on, it was not enough stimulation. I needed more and more stimulation. So slowly it came to my daily life, the act of like porn and masturbation, and that habit kind of became ingrained in my daily life. I've been constantly like horny and thinking about that shit. It's not a good thing though. Of course it's not a good thing. Well, at that time, it's like there are like different varieties of porn. First it was just starting to watch normal porn. Then slowly it's like threesome, foursome, lesbian porn, transgender porn. It's like it fucks your brain up. And the stuff that I say in this video, even though I'm kind of targeting masturbation and porn, like masturbation is just bad because it's just a pleasure, okay? It's just a pleasure which messes with your brain and like ruins your motivation, your testosterone, all that stuff. Porn is just fucked up. But now, what's the situation? Now I don't even like think about, I don't even get urges. I mean, I do get urges, I do get hard, all of that stuff happens. But then it's like, I don't even fantasize about jerking off. And even if I do, it's like I have the rock of my identity to fall back on. And that's the stage in which you want to be. You don't want to like continually put your mind into I'm not going to fap, like itching the streaks onto the wall every time you wake up. No, you want to enter that state of I'm not a fapper anymore. Like you don't even think about that. Can you imagine yourself doing that, where you don't even think about the thing that you're addicted to, where it's just not who you are anymore? Is it possible? Well, there's two concepts that I want you to know. Number one is the idea of this neuromodulator. What happens every time you stimulate yourself? You feel good, right? What is exactly feeling good? It's stuff happening in your brain. What are those stuff that are happening in your brain which makes you feel good? There's this neuromodulator called dopamine. You would have heard it. Dopamine detoxes, where there's a guy on the left looking all sad, and then there's a split screen and a guy on the right looking happy, doing all the healthy stuff. They have a point. When you spike the dopamine levels, it comes back to the baseline then and goes below the baseline, which makes you crave for even more dopamine. And then as you go there, your baseline comes lower and lower, which is like the craving for stimulation. Your brain is messed up, but it can be fixed. The thing about like as you go on to self-improvement, you'll be lowering the amount of stimulation that you're receiving on a day-to-day basis. And when you do that, it's like, what happens when you go to the gym? You hit a hard workout session, and then you're sore, right? But you're not going to stop going to the gym because you're sore. You know it's part of the process. So when you know, because that soreness is going to lead you to become better and stronger over time. The same thing is with your mind. As you remove the stimulation in your life, you're going to feel like mentally it's going to feel bad. It's going to feel like dismotivated. That's how I describe basically the feeling that you're going to feel. But then what happens next? Your dopamine baseline comes up. Then you start to feel motivated. You start to feel like your mind starts to function at a higher level, when you are not engaging in such stimulating activities anymore. And the thing about porn, specifically about porn, masturbation is like all other types of pleasure. The thing about porn is that because there are like, you can watch multiple women at once, you can keep the spike up as long as you wanted to. Like this can be done for like a few hours. Thankfully I've never even gone close to that level, but that is something that you can do only with porn. Not even let's say with sex, the dopamine level spikes, it comes down, it goes below the baseline, it comes back up, all that's fine. Porn, it's like potent, which makes this more dangerous than, like when used in the wrong way, porn can be worse than drugs. Porn can be worse than substances, because you can keep the spike up as long as you want it to. The crashes are going to be long lasting, and the crashes are going to be, it's going to be messed up. And the second concept that I want to talk about with you is the idea of willpower. They say, what if I tell you willpower is like a muscle? Would you believe me? I'm not sure if the answer is yes or no, but to me the answer is yes. And it was so like profound to think about when I heard Andrew Huberman say this. There's a little part of your brain, like the anterior mid-cingulate cortex in your brain. It's a part of the brain, like every time you do something that you don't feel like doing, you resist temptation for junk food, you resist the temptation for porn. It's like when that part of the brain activates, you are like, come on bro, let's go, let's do it, to your temptation, to the hard work that it's like a state of will. It's a state of, they don't know me son, basically. And it gets activated every time you use your willpower. And you know what happens to the person who activates it regularly? The anterior mid-cingulate cortex, come closer, it grows in size and mass. Which means David Goggins was up to something the entire time when he was talking about like callousing your brain. Using these two, you can train your mind. You can train your mind to not be addicted to something. I hope you're listening properly, because that is genuinely good information, because it's under your control now. You can train your brain to be not addicted to something. And as you're doing this, I want you to track it. That's what I did. That's what I did when I was like trying to quit masturbation and that whole shebang. Every time I masturbated, I would mark it on my habit tracker. And the idea of this is, it's not to keep streaks. I'm gonna fucking shit on like streaks, okay? Because if you don't want your mind to obsess over like, today is another day I didn't fap, today is another day I didn't fap. Fapping is just going to become so integrated in your mind and so hard to remove when you do that. Like that is just so you can see your accuracy. How many times are you fapping in a week? How many times are you fapping in a day? How many times are you fapping in a month? And then that is like, think in terms of accuracy, because if you think in terms of streaks, and the goal with your habit tracker is where you don't even need to write the word like fapping on your habit tracker anymore. It's like, anyways, it's going to be blank. So you don't even have to think about it anymore. I'm obsessing over this because I don't want you to obsess your mind over fapping. And that's like kind of the holy grail of addictions. I'll talk about it later in the end of the video. The idea of using willpower and then tracking, and it's too good, bro. It's literally too good. And something like some of the tricks that I've heard to like help you get control of the urges at the moment. Something that I've heard, like there are a few stuff that I've heard, okay? Number one is just when you get the urge, when it's getting out of control, you just wanna then go out and train a hard exercise to failure. like something it can be like push-ups, pull-ups, something, like exert yourself physically. That's like idea number one. Idea number two is to tell no to I'm just been hearing this random stuff on the internet. I'm telling it to you because I think it may be helpful to you. Thing number two is to tell no to the thought before it becomes a fantasy, and then just carry on with your everyday life. Just tell no out loud to the thought before it becomes fantasy. Thing number three is, as the way of the superior man describes it, when you feel turned on, just take like 10-second, 15-second breaths in and out slowly, and then imagine the superior man. I'm not sure how good this works. And then as you do that for a 15, like set of 15 breaths. And the thing that he says is to visualize in your mind that the like sexual energy in your dick, like hovering on top of your dick. Imagine that like slowly diluting and moving on to the rest of your body. And at the end of when you do that, you'll supposedly, it's not going to feel like concentrated at one point where you just want to explode it out into the world. It's going to be like all over your body as you use your breath to kind of move it around your body, and it's just going to be like a 5% buff, like a 5% boost in your everyday life. Thing number three, and am I forgetting something? Telling no, this, that. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm endangering this video being taken down. This video, once again, this video has a good chance to be removed by YouTube, because I posted a similar video before where I've talked even more raw than what I'm talking right now, and that video was taken down, bro. It was removed. So if you're watching this video, you're in a lucky position where you get to use the thoughts and ideas that I'm telling it to you right now. I remember myself one day, I just slept and the urges were too strong, because usually you have something to do with your life, but when you have the urges when you're trying to sleep, it's just out of control. It's way too out of control, and then it's just like, and then I tried to use my willpower, but then I ended up breaking down. I ended up fapping. And the next day, I remember this. I'm telling to myself, what if I can use my willpower? I'm like, next time this happens, when like the urges are so strong, I'm gonna challenge myself to, I hope I didn't hit the mic. I'm gonna goddamn, like I said it to myself in my mind in a way, like beating my chest and saying, let's see what the fuck happens. Let's see what the fuck this urge can do to me. And then it's like that level of aggression. And then the next day I didn't fap. And then seeing that, like looking at that version of myself where I was able to overcome that willpower with the strength of my mind, it's like, that's when the identity formed. And then I'm a master of my mind. I've mastered willpower in this one habit. It just occurred to me. And after that, I remember another day, in the day like when I'm sleeping, I mean in this room, and I'm trying to sleep, and then I just get so hard and I want to masturbate so hard, so much, I mean, and then that just is like, I mastered my mind. I can do this. And then I did it. And this is my argument against like Hamza Ahmed's progressive deloading. Like as I told you to mark down on the habit tracker, just lowering it down bit by bit every single month until it takes a year to. I mean, that is truth in that. If you progressive deloading, whatever they're saying, it has a point. I'm just going to give it to them. That's useful. But I'm telling you right now that you are capable to go from fapping a few times from where struggling with no fap. I mean, you're still making progress even when you're struggling, right? Because you're continually training your brain, you're still making progress. I'm telling you that you are very really capable of making that zero. Making that zero, because when there are some things like when the shift happens to your identity, So don't like instill false beliefs in yourself that it's not possible. So when that changes happen in your identity, you're like, I'm not a fapper, I have control over my mind. You start to believe that shit, and that's when the thing happens. And after that, I don't think, like, even before that stuff happened, I've been like trying no fap for a long time, like almost for a few months to like 6 months, few months, 1 year, I'm not even sure how long. But then after that, I've never masturbated. It's like, it's not part of who I am anymore. I stopped even writing that on my habit track. It was just that much. And like, let me get to that so-called holy grail of addictions. Right now, I know, like, sit up straight. I know your posters probably should go take a sip of water or something, and a few seconds, I'll just drink some water and be back. ASMR, bro. That was not a moan. The holy grail of addictions. I think I told about this many times. I've told this story many times to many people, and in front of the camera also. There was a dude who put rats in a cage, and he kept 2 bottles with those rats. One filled with water and one filled with water laced with heroin or cocaine. 100% of the times the rats overdosed themselves to death. The second time he repeated this experiment, but he made an important change. He put the rats into what's like he called a rat park, where the rats had other rats to come over, like talk with, play with. They had like it was basically a park where there were so many fun things they can do. They had like social connection also. What do you think the overdosage rate was? Before it was 100%, the death rate was 100%. Now, what do you think it was? 90%, 80%, 70%, 50%? It was 0 goddamn percent. Addictions are going to be a lot harder to face, to overcome, when you don't have, and I know if you're like struggling with any addiction, you don't have a lot of things going on in your life. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's why that's why you need to do this like holistic self-improvement. You need to get on self-improvement, because addictions are a lot harder to face without it. You need to go out, you need to be chasing goals, you need to be spending your time going out and achieving things, and then like slowly meeting people, getting a good social support around you. Those things are invaluable. Having things to work on, having people around you that are like, that's like a support circle for you. I'm still trying to bring more of that stuff into my everyday life, and that's why I kind of made a complete guide around it. Like, I made a video that makes you find your direction, what to work on, and like at the end of the video you get an actionable routine that you can go out and follow in your everyday life to go in and make progress in your life. And that piece of gold is right here. Take action. Peace.